Joining me now is Michael Pillsbury, Hudson Institute Director of Center on Chinese Strategy. Michael, good to see you. Listen, what arrogance of the Chinese government to say, listen, we're going to put out threats, we're going to get aggressive because the Speaker of the House is going to go to Taiwan. Do they just think they have so much more power over us?
Yes, they do, Sean. And frankly, they also believe Taiwan belongs to China, and therefore they believe they can control whoever comes to visit. The American position since 1972 really has been that Taiwan's status we don't want to talk about. We don't want to say if it belongs to China or not. So Nancy Pelosi's trip, I think, upsets the Chinese already because they're afraid she's going to say something to break this delicate ambiguity we have over Taiwan's status. Worst case, Sean, Nancy Pelosi could start World War III. Best case is this shows she's not involved in any special dealings with China. Neither she nor her husband are doing anything they shouldn't do. So I can see why the trip looks good from some points of view, but it's also risky or even dangerous.
Well, what's your point of view, Michael? You're a Chinese expert, and I look at this and go, you know what? The Chinese government shouldn't say where American elected officials travel. They should have no say in it. And if they actually make a comment on it, we should actually make sure we go. But is it a bad idea in your perspective?
Well, I can see why President Biden and General Milley seem to be opposed to the trip from their comments they've already made. I myself favor the trip. I think it will enhance the status of Taiwan. The Speaker, as you know very well, is the number 3 in line of succession after President and Vice President. So she provides a special kind of high-level authority that Taiwan is not a part of China. As you know, the executive branch doesn't call China a country. We cut off all military exercises. We have no forces on Taiwan. We have no supplies there in case of an attack. So Nancy Pelosi could be enhancing Taiwan's stature by making this trip. But the downside is if she ad-libs or says something she shouldn't, that undermines these delicate arrangements that go back to Henry Kissinger.
Well, Michael, we now have the Chinese government ramping up their harassment of the Taiwanese military.
Yes.
We've all watched Russia and Ukraine in that conflict. We're all concerned about what's going to happen with China and Taiwan. What do you see taking place here? Do you see an invasion coming on the horizon? And if you do, what should we be doing in America to help Taiwan prepare for that?
Well, we're caught in a dilemma that if we do the right thing, that is, if we build up ammunition and supplies on Taiwan, if we have our forces go there, if we have American Navy ships put in calls in Taiwan's ports, if we do this kind of thing, which would enhance deterrence in most situations around the world, it's a kind of warning, don't invade. But if we do all that, it's jabbing the dragon in the eye, saying that Taiwan is not yours, and we Americans never agreed to it. Now, I don't think that Henry Kissinger's deal back in 1972 was such a good deal, not to talk about this ever and not to ever actually help Taiwan's defense. So Nancy Pelosi's trip is really raising this issue in a way that probably should have been raised many years ago, Sean, that Americans don't understand. When members of Congress go, that's okay with China. They consider congressional delegations not to represent the president. But this is a little different. Here's the Speaker going, and she might say something really pro-Taiwan. She'd almost have to. In that case, we're calling China's bluff of an invasion.
Now, Michael, the dragon's kind of poking the United States because a Chinese company purchased hundreds of acres of farmland in North Dakota, minutes from a U.S. Air Force base where some of our nation's most sensitive drone technology sits. And, last year, China spent more than any other country in the world buying U.S. property. And America's allowing that, Michael. What should we do?
Well, the big picture, as you know, Sean, is the Chinese desire to replace us as the world's leader. So up until now, they've pretty much got away with anything they want to do. President Trump did something important with raising the tariffs. He demanded an investigation of the Wuhan virus laboratory theory, which has still not taken place. So we're kind of caught in a paralysis inside the United States about what to do about China. So far, they seem to take a little bite here, a little bite there, buy some land in North Dakota, make some threatening gestures and military exercises, but they really haven't been forcefully repelled from any of these probes, Sean. So Nancy Pelosi's trip may end up being a real test.
You know, Michael, they spent $6.1 billion in a 12-month period alone buying U.S. land. I think we should have a policy against that, especially when it's coming from firms that are tied to the Chinese Communist Party. That seems like a direct threat, but Congress has to act to do that, and hopefully they will.
As you know, she blocked the bipartisan China task force that Kevin McCarthy wanted to get going 2 years ago. Remember, it came out with 400 recommendations, but Nancy Pelosi, as far as I'm concerned, made a huge mistake by blocking that bipartisan China task force. Now she has the chance to undo it and do something in a bipartisan way without provoking World War III.
Michael Pillsbury, really great point. Thanks for reminding me of that, and I appreciate you joining me.